the listeners that are doing this, they barely even notice the payments leaving their wallet because the values are so small. But if you compare these numbers to what you would get traditionally from advertising in terms of the CPMs, it actually works out to be quite a high amount of money.
Welcome back to Podcasting 2.0 in Practice. I'm back with Oscar, and in the previous episode we spoke specifically about boosts, although there were mentions of streaming. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about streaming. Now, we're using the same sats that we talked about in the previous episode. We're using the same wallet. It's just a slightly different way of paying or, contributing to the show. So can you tell me how streaming works, please?
Yeah, so streaming sats is a more passive way for listeners to support your show. The way this works in Podcasting 2.0 apps like Fountain is listeners directly from the player can toggle on or off whether they want to stream money to you. And they set a sats per minute value. It could be 10 sats per minute. It could be 50 sats per minute. It could be 100, 200, 500 even. And this works out to about like 5 cents per minute in terms of how much they're actually paying you. So it's very small amounts. And for the listeners that are doing this, they barely even notice the payments leaving their wallet because the values are so small. But if you compare these numbers to what you would get traditionally from advertising in terms of the CPMs, it actually works out to be quite a high amount of money. So it's a great way to earn from your show in a more passive way. And again, just as we talked about in terms of encouraging people to send boosts, it's great to also encourage the streaming. Tell your listeners, like, I also see all of the people who've been streaming, this really adds up across the entire audience. And be really clear, say, even if you're only streaming me, 1 cent per minute, this is more than I get from advertising. So you can help me move away from advertising and make more money if you just stream me these tiny amounts, which you probably won't even notice on a day by day.
At the time of release of this episode, I would like to thank the lovely humans who have streamed payments so far for the whole show. These fabulous people are Brian Ensminger, Deborah Anderson, Cy, the late Bloomer actor, Guy Martin, Seth, Martin Lindskog, Sam Sethi, and Nick. Thank you so much.
Yeah, streaming's a really important part, and it's one of the cool things that micropayments and Bitcoin unlocks. It's still, again, very early. There's a lot more we can do to improve it. But yeah, I think it's very cool to be able to do this.
Brilliant. So you can see who streams and how much they stream and how much of the show they listen to. Is that correct?
You can see who's streaming and which app they're streaming from in dashboards like the Fountain Podcaster dashboard, or if you're using Albi to receive your Lightning payments, then you can see that in Albi as well. In terms of the, retention on a per episode basis, the tools for that aren't really well developed, but that's something that I think we'll see more of as more people start using this.
Okay, no, I understand. Thank you so much for that. Thanks so much for listening. Visit creativityfound.co.uk/podcasting to access lots of useful podcast resources and find out more about my guests. If you'd like to get in touch, you can send a comment, boost, or super comment using any of the modern podcast apps we talk about in this podcast series. Or feel free to reach out to me on my Instagram account at Podcasting 2.0 in Practice.